Beyond the favoritism, my quiet ascent to unquestionable authority. Hi everyone, my name is Maya and I want to share my story with you. It's a tale of how I went from being the overlooked sister to someone who found her voice and authority in a world dominated by favoritism. I grew up in the shadow of my older brother Alex, who always seemed to get all the praise and attention. My journey wasn't easy, but it was filled with lessons that changed my life. So, grab your popcorn and let's dive into this roller coaster of a story. Growing up, I was the quiet one in the family. While Alex was out winning trophies for soccer and getting straight A's, I found solace in books and puzzles. I loved reading about successful people and dreaming of what I could achieve one day. But every time my family gathered, the spotlight always gravitated towards Alex. I often felt like a ghost, floating in the background, silently cheering for him while wishing I could shine too. At family dinners, I'd listen as my parents praised Alex for his latest achievements. "Maya, how about you? Any big plans?" My mom would occasionally ask, her voice tinged with hope. I'd smile and shrug, the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I didn't want to admit that I was still trying to find my path. I wanted to be proud like Alex, but I felt lost in a world that seemed to love him more. High school was a turning point for me. I discovered my passion for coding in computer science class. It was like a light bulb went off. I spent hours teaching myself new languages and building apps. At last, I felt competent and excited about something. But whenever I brought it up at home, Alex would roll his eyes. "Coding? That's so boring, Maya. You should try sports or something cool." I brushed off his comments, but they stung. After high school, I enrolled in a local college, determined to pursue a degree in computer science. I worked hard, juggling classes and part-time jobs. I was proud of the progress I made, but I still felt overshadowed by Alex. He landed an internship at a prestigious firm, and everyone raved about how talented he was. I couldn't help but think, what about me? I was working just as hard, but it felt like no one cared. My turning point came during my junior year when I discovered an opportunity to participate in a coding competition. I was nervous but excited to showcase my skills. I spent countless nights preparing, pouring my heart into the project. When the day of the competition arrived, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I was finally stepping into the spotlight, even if just for a moment. As I presented my project, I could see the judges nodding and engaging with my ideas. For the first time, I felt like I was being heard. I couldn't believe it when they announced my name as the winner. My heart soared as I realized I had finally accomplished something significant. It was a small victory, but for me, it meant everything. I had proven to myself that I could stand out. After the competition, things started to change. I received offers for internships and even job opportunities. I was thrilled, but I still hesitated to share my success with my family. I feared Alex would downplay my achievements or overshadow them with his own. I decided to keep my accomplishments to myself for a while, wanting to savor the victory privately. Eventually, I mustered the courage to tell my parents about my win. Their reaction was mixed. While they were proud, I could sense a hint of disappointment that I hadn't chosen a more traditional path. "You know, Maya, it's great you're winning competitions, but what about real-world experience? Alex is gaining insight into the industry," my dad said, trying to encourage me. I felt deflated but held my head high. Determined not to let their opinions deter me, I secured an internship at a tech startup. It was an exciting time, filled with challenges and learning experiences. I was finally surrounded by people who understood my passion for coding. I loved the thrill of solving problems and creating new software. The more I learned, the more confident I became in my abilities. As my internship progressed, I realized I was making a name for myself in the company. My supervisors began to recognize my potential, and I was given more responsibilities. It felt like a dream come true. But just when I thought things were going well, I heard news that shook me. Alex had landed a job at a well-known tech giant, and the family was buzzing with excitement. That night, I found myself scrolling through social media, watching my family celebrate Alex's success. I felt a mix of pride and jealousy. I wanted to be happy for him, but I couldn't help but feel overshadowed again. I closed my laptop and took a deep breath, reminding myself that my journey was different. I was carving my own path, even if it didn't look like Alex's. A few weeks later, I attended a family gathering. As soon as I walked in, the conversation turned to Alex and his new job. "He's gonna be such a star," my mom exclaimed. I smiled and nodded, trying to hide my discomfort. Then someone turned to me and asked, "What about you, Maya? Any exciting news?" I hesitated and then mentioned my internship. The room fell silent for a moment before Alex chimed in. "Oh, that's nice, but it's not like it's a real job or anything." His casual dismissal felt like a punch to the gut, but I refused to let it show. I smiled and shrugged, saying, "It's a stepping stone for me." Inside, I was boiling, but I reminded myself that I was building my authority, even if it took time. After that night, I became more determined than ever to prove myself. I worked harder at my internship, taking on challenging projects and pushing my boundaries. I even started a side project, developing an app that helped local businesses manage their inventory more efficiently. It was a labor of love, and I poured my heart into it. As I neared the end of my internship, my supervisor called me into his office. "Maya, I have some great news," he said, a smile spreading across his face. "We want to offer you a full-time position after you graduate." I couldn't contain my excitement. This was my chance to finally shine. I thanked him profusely, feeling like I was on the brink of something big. With my new job offer, I decided to share my success with my family. I knew they would be proud of me, and I was ready to step out of Alex's shadow. During our next family dinner, I took a deep breath and announced, "I got a job offer." My parents looked at me with surprise and excitement, but I could see Alex's smirk returning. "Wow, that's great, Maya," my mom said, beaming. "What will you be doing?" I explained my role and the projects I would be working on. As I spoke, I noticed Alex's attitude shift. He didn't seem as enthusiastic as before. "That's cool, but it's not a big tech giant," he said, trying to downplay my achievement. I felt that old familiar sting again, but this time, I wouldn't let it affect me. After that dinner, I focused on my upcoming graduation and the excitement of starting my new job. I was finally ready to embrace my place in the tech industry. But just as things were looking up, I faced another challenge. I learned that Alex was applying for the same position at my new company. I couldn't believe it. It felt like a twist of fate. As graduation approached, the pressure mounted. I knew Alex would be competing against me for the same job, and it made me nervous. I tried to focus on my studies and prepare for my new role, but the thought of him being there, potentially overshadowing my success, weighed heavily on my mind. I had worked too hard to let this derail me. Finally, graduation day arrived. I walked across the stage, feeling proud of my accomplishments. As I glanced into the audience, I spotted my family cheering for me. It was a moment I would cherish forever. But I also saw Alex there, looking smug as ever. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was always one step ahead of me. A few days after graduation, I started my new job. My excitement was palpable, but it was also mixed with anxiety about Alex's presence. I walked into the office, determined to prove myself. My team welcomed me warmly, and I was eager to get started. However, it wasn't long before I learned Alex had also been hired. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. How could this happen? I thought I had finally made it, but it felt like I was back in the shadows again. I steeled myself and told myself I wouldn't let this affect me. I was here for a reason, and I would show everyone what I was capable of. As the weeks went by, Alex and I were placed on the same project. It was a competitive environment, and I could sense the tension building. I focused on my work, determined to deliver results. I wouldn't let favoritism or family ties dictate my fate. Finally, I realized that I wasn't just the quiet sister anymore. I was proving my worth every day. In the end, I learned a valuable lesson. Success isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about the impact you make. I found my place and my authority in a world filled with favoritism. And as I stood at the company's annual meeting, presenting my project with confidence, I knew I had finally stepped out of the shadows. So remember, no matter where you start, your journey is yours to shape. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like mine.